Hello everyone, I'm Sach and welcome back to my crochet channel. Now today I'm going to show you how to crochet these 4-leaf clover coasters. Now these are bigger coasters to fit those bigger mugs, and so they're lacy and fun to make and a little bit different than what we've made in the past, and I really love the way this design worked out. Now you will notice that I have this one in the center on a blocking board, and I'm going to show you at the end of the video how to take care of if that is not shaping the way you want it to. These are intended to be sort of a rounded square. And if you want them a little more round, you can put them on a blocking board. And I'll talk to you about that at the end of the video. As far as the size, it measures about 5.5 by 5.5. So it's a really nice size coaster. Let me show you with my big mug. All right, but they're also beautiful to use as maybe place markers if you're going to have some sort of a party for St. Patrick's Day. And I like to make this sort of thing when I'm going to have a little get together for certain holidays, and then I can just give one of these to each of my guests. They can take it home and remember what a great time they had at our get together or family celebration. Now you can find this free crochet pattern on my blog, and as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make one of our 4-leaf clover, I'm calling it lacy because it's open, coasters or decorations, you can use any medium weight number 4 yarn. Now these 3 here are all made with cotton. This one is made with some peaches and cream. This one is made with I Love This Cotton. And this one is made with some Premier Cotton. And the sparkle yarn here, I don't know if you can tell that's sparkle or not, but it is an I Love This Cotton. It's okay to mix your brands as long as you stay in 100% cotton. And the reason is if you switch up and maybe use one that's a 50-50, it might not wash up nicely and it might pucker a little more, or if it has some wool in it, it will felt a little bit going through that wash. All right, so for today's demonstration, I'm going to be making it out of acrylic, and that's because you can use these coasters just for protecting your countertops and your tables with acrylic yarns. You want to make them with cotton if you're going to use a glass, say with a diet soda or something that's going to sweat. You want that cotton so that it can catch that sweat off that glass. But if you're just using them for decoration and for protecting your tabletops, acrylic yarns are fine. It just takes a small amount, and this is some leftover Red Heart Super Saver that I had on hand, and then this is just some of that Craft Smart that I like from Michaels, both 100% acrylic yarn. Now you can see I've made them in different colors of green, and you can do the same thing. Make them however you want, get in your yarn stash, and mix and match the colors. I think it would be super pretty if in this white section you used maybe some rainbow yarn. That would be super pretty. All right, so we're going to stitch with our 5mm crochet hook. That's your H, 5.0mm crochet hook. You'll need a needle just for weaving in ends, and of course a pair of scissors. Now if you want to block yours, I have a blocking board. I got these at Michael's. You can get them in packs of 4 or 5, I think. I've had mine for quite a few years, and I've seen these at Michael's. I've seen them at Joann's, and I also saw some at Hobby Lobby the other day. So you can get them at just about any craft store. Look over by where the yarns are, and I think they were real cheap, like $4 or $5 a piece. We're going to be starting with our green yarn because we're going to make our 4-leaf clover first and then finish up with the white. So we'll start with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to join this chain 5 into a circle. So we'll put the tail of yarn over our hook and pull that through. We'll snug that down. and go ahead and tie that little stay knot. And if you prefer to use the magic circle here, you certainly can. We're going to put our hook in, pull up a loop, and chain 6. This chain 6 counts as a double crochet, chain 3. Now we're going to double crochet in that chain 5 loop and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And we'll do this 2 more times. Double crochet, chain 3, and double crochet, chain 3. You'll notice that I stitched those double crochets over that tail of yarn, and that's so I can close that hole up, but I'll show you that in just a second. Now we have chain 3, and we're going to join to the 3rd chain of that beginning chain 6. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. We'll go in and pull up a loop and pull that loop through as a slip stitch, and then we'll chain 1. Now what we're going to do is turn this over. I'm going to grab my needle. I'm going to gently pull on that to close up that hole, and then I'll go ahead and weave this in. Now you can do this later if you want to. I just like to go ahead and get it done. One less weave in I have to do later. All right, that's looking good. So we'll go ahead and clip that. And for round 1, we have 4 double crochets with chain 3s in between. For round 2, we're going to go right in that first chain 3 space. We're going to stitch a single crochet. Then we're going to stitch 4 double crochets right in this chain 3 space. So here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll stitch a single crochet in that same chain 3 space. So in that first chain 3 space, we stitched a single crochet, 4 double crochets, and a single crochet. Now we'll go to the next chain 3 space, stitch a single crochet, 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a single crochet. And then we'll repeat that on these last 2 chain 3 spaces. So single crochet, 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a single crochet. Then we'll go to that last chain 3 space and stitch single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4 double crochets, and 1 single crochet. And so we stitch that in each of those spaces. And so what you want to do is go to this first single crochet and join with a slip stitch. And so for row 2, we have 4 sets of single crochet, 4 double crochets, single crochet in each of those chain 3 spaces. Now we're ready for row 3. So we're going to single crochet in that first single crochet. Now we're going to double crochet in the first double crochet. And then in these next 2 double crochets, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. So 1, oops, there we go, 2, 1, 2, and then in that last double crochet we're going to stitch 1 double crochet and then single crochet in the single crochet. All right, so single crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, and 1 single crochet. All right, so we'll go to the next and we'll stitch a single crochet in the single crochet, double crochet in the next double crochet, 2 double crochets in the next, 1 and 2, 2 double crochets in the next double crochet, 1 and 2, then 1 double crochet in the next double crochet, then single crochet in the single crochet. All right, and then we'll repeat what we did here in these last 2 petals of our 4-leaf clover. So I repeated that on those last 2 petals of my 4-leaf clover, single crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets in the next, 1 double crochet, and then single crochet. So we're going to join to the single crochet with a slip stitch, and we're going to cut our yarn. And now we're going to bring in our white. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and do a chain 1, and that's just going to get it up on top where we want it to be. And now we're going to do a double crochet, but we're going to be doing what's called a long double crochet. And that means we're going to wrap our yarn around, and instead of placing our double crochet here, we're going to place it down here in this first chain 3 that we did at the beginning that counted as our first double crochet. So you've got your first wrap on your yarn. You're going to come down here, the top of that chain 3, grab that yarn, and then finish your double crochet. Now we're going to chain 1 and repeat that in the same spot. And so we did a long double crochet, chain 1, and a long double crochet. Now we're going to chain 3, and we're going to single crochet in between where we did those 2 double crochets. We have our 1 and then our 2. We're going to go in between those 2 sets of 2 double crochets and stitch 2 single crochets. 1, 2. Now we'll chain 3, and that brings us over here to our center, and we're going to repeat here what we did here. So we're going to stitch a long double crochet and go in the top of that double crochet from our first row. And make sure you don't pull that too tightly. We don't want that puckering up. It's like a little splitty there. There we go. Chain 1, and then a long double crochet in the top of that double crochet from row 1, not chain 1. And see how that looks? That gives us the appearance of our clover. All right, chain 3, 2 single crochets in between those 2 sets of 2 double crochets. There we go. All right, chain 3. And then we'll do those 2 long double crochets again. And this needs to be a little bit loose. Like I said, you don't want it puckering up or pulling. But if it does a little bit, that is something that we can fix when we do the blocking at the end. All righty. Chain 3. 2 single crochets in between those 2 sets of 2. Chain 3. One more set of 1 long double crochet. Chain 1 and 1 long double crochet. Chain 3. 2 single crochets between those 2 sets of 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and chain 3. Now we're going to join to that first double crochet with a slip stitch. Now it looks a little puckery, right? All right, so just sort of flatten it out. It'll work just fine. We slip stitched into that first long double crochet. We're going to go in that chain 1 space with a slip stitch and chain 4. This chain 4 counts as a double crochet chain 1, and we're going to double crochet in that same chain 1 space, and that forms a V-stitch. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to stitch a V-stitch in this chain 3 space. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go in between those 2 single crochets and stitch a V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And then we'll chain 1. Now we'll go to the next chain 3 space and stitch a V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet, and then we'll chain 1 and go to the chain 1 space in between those 2 double crochets and stitch our V-stitch. Chain 1, go in the chain 3 space and stitch a V-stitch. Chain 1, go in between those 2 single crochets and stitch a V-stitch. And chain 1. And you can see how the pattern works. You're going to stitch a V-stitch in the chain 1 space between the long double crochets, chain 1, V-stitch in the chain 3 space, then chain 1, V-stitch in between the 2 single crochets, chain 1, V-stitch in the chain 3 space, chain 1, and continue to repeat this all the way around that edge of our coaster. So I continued to repeat that all the way around, and I really love the way the V-stitches makes it look nice and lacy. All right, so here's my last V-stitch in my chain 3 space and my chain 1. So we're going to join to that chain 3 from that beginning chain 4. We're going to slip stitch in that chain 1 space and chain 1. Now we're going to do just a row of single crochets all the way around. So we'll single crochet in that first chain 1 space. We'll single crochet in the double crochet. Single crochet in the chain 1. Single crochet in the double crochet. So basically we're single crocheting in each chain 1 space and each of the double crochets all the way around our coaster. Single crochet in each double crochet and chain 1 space all the way around, and this will give us a nice edge for our coaster. I stitched that solid row of single crochets, stitching 1 in each of the double crochets and the chain 1 spaces. So I'm going to join to that first single crochet with a slip stitch and cut my yarn. And I'm going to bring back in my green yarn. All right. And what we're going to do on this last row is we're going to do a row of slip stitches so they sit up on top. It's a little bit different sort of an edge. Just want to give it a little pop of green, all right? So I'm going to chain 1 just to get it up on top. And now we're just going to go in, pull up a loop, then pull that loop through the loop on your hook. And we'll do that in each of those single crochets. It's called a slip stitch because you're not making a stitch. You're pulling up a loop and then slipping that loop through the loop on your hook. And that makes a nice edge because you still have your white edge showing, but it adds just a little pop of color around the edge of your coaster. Now you could do this in orange, or you could do it in a rainbow, or just green, or even a different shade of green if you wanted to. So we'll just go all the way around the edge, slipping stitching one slip stitch in each of those single crochets all the way around. I stitch those slip stitches all the way around. Now what we're going to do when we tie off is we're going to go in that next stitch from behind, grab that loop and pull that in. And this is important so we get a nice edge on our coaster and so it looks pretty. All right, so we'll turn it over, clip that, and tie that off. Make sure I grab the right one here. There we go. All right, now I do have a little bit of weaving in to do. If you don't like it or don't like the way that it's laying, it's not perfectly straight for you, I'm going to take a minute after I weave in my ends with this needle and show you how to block it really simply. So if you're happy with the shape of it, it's a little bit of a rounded square, that's totally fine. But if you want it to be a little bit crisp, you can block it into a square if you want to by pinning it to a blocking board. Spritz it with some water and it will dry and be a square. All right, the other thing you can do with this particular one is make it into a circle by a simple blocking. All right, and that's kind of the shape that I want, kind of a circle, but not a perfectly round circle. I call it a rounded square. All right, now before we do that, there are lots of different things you can use for blocking boards. You don't have to have blocking boards if you don't have them on hand. And we're going to talk more about that on Friday for our Friday Fun Day. But you can use cardboard. Just remember, cardboard when it's wet gets yucky. There's lots of different things that are made of sponge, or you can just lay it flat out on a towel and pin it to a towel. All right, and to make it rounded, what I do is I'll come out here on the sides and pin it. See how it's a little more rounded? And then we can pin like this. And there's lots of different ways to pin. One thing to remember, make sure that you get pins that are not like real old ones, because the old ones, I'm actually going to move the way I did that because I don't want that to be pointed. Some of the older pins are not made with stainless steel and they do rust. So keep that in mind if you're using some old pins maybe that someone has given you. Okay? Now, I've pinned it. I'm going to take a bottle of water and I'm going to spritz it. I'm not going to put anything else on it. I'm not putting any starch or sugar or anything like that on it, because all I want it to do is dry in this shape. Now, when it goes through the laundry, it's going to lose its shape again. So keep that in mind also. Okay? Blocking is only a temporary fix, but I like doing it if I'm going to be giving these away to someone. I want them to look as pretty and as crisp as I can. So I'll pin it to a blocking board. I'll spritz it with just water. I don't soak it down. I just get it damp. And one of my things I do is I set it on top of my dryer. So when my laundry is drying and the room heats up, it's going to dry a lot faster. But you can just set it out on your counter so it can dry whenever, if you're not in a big hurry. Like I'm always in a big hurry. All right, and so that is our 4-leaf clover coaster. And you can see that I've made them in lots of different shades of green and shades of white. And so just get in your yarn stash and have some fun. And remember, you can use any colors that you want, any shades of green, and any medium weight number 4 yarns that you have on hand.